For this one.
Huh?
So, yeah.
Hey, Shalom to all the brothers out here. Shalom. All right, all praises due to Yahweh by Hashem Yahushai. Everyone is to the apostles of Great Millstone and Shalom to all you brothers out there pushing the word of truth and sincerity. We got a special event today. The brothers that normally link up on Thursdays at Delancey Street, we out there
On
at the National Museum of what is it, Native American Museum, National Native American Museum, and they have all sorts of information. All right, but we're gonna kick it off. Um, the Apostle of Hall, matter of fact, said switch it up. He said, don't always do the same thing. So we're gonna bring it to you from a museum now. In this perspective, that a lot of brothers actually did videos from museums in Great Millstone. So we're just gonna encourage more of that too, and actually going with what Apostle Hall said, bring it out. Switching it up, mixing it up. Sometimes we hit the museum, sometimes we hit the street. What have you. So right here we have in this Native American Museum of Natural History, I believe, or Native American History Museum. We're in the island of Manhattan, and we're at the Bowery. What is it? Bowery Street, Bowery Station.
Bowling
Okay?
Greens.
The Bowling Green Station. Right. So you have this national Native American Museum, and we just stumbled upon a few posters boards they have up, and right away they already talking about love, the love that so-called Native Americans who are Gadites, by the way, right? Because what we believe is that we're the biblical children of Israel. What we believe is that our forefathers, through slavery, our understanding and our heritage is stripped from us, right? And according to the Bible, we are the people of the Lord. According to the curses in the book of Deuteronomy 28, and just our further studies of the scriptures and history, we have to be these people, including the Native Americans and the Seminole Indians, so-called. Right? These are the children of Gad. These are the children of Reuben. So right here you have the Gadite, the nation of Gad, or the tribe of Gad, who were taken down by the so-called white man. All right, his troops, the colonial Puritans, what have you, came over here to this land roughly around the 1600s. As you see here, George Washington Peace Medal, 1792. So roughly around, as a matter of fact, Salakia, much earlier than that, 1492. All right, it said Columbus sailed the ocean blue. So briefly after that, Christopher Columbus coming over here to the Americas, you had the seizure, the rape, robbery, and murder of the people indigenous to this land, so-called Native Americans who are the Gadites and the Reubenites of the Bible. And the so-called white man's raping of the people didn't stop just in North America, even though we emphasize in this museum, emphasize what happened in North America, it didn't stop in North America. It continued to Central America and South America, all the indigenous tribes of the Northern Kingdom. Okay? Now, this diagram here says Patriot Nations, Native Americans in our armed forces. So automatically it skips a large part of history, how the so-called white man came over here. It skips the Gatling gun, the use of smallpox, biological warfare, when they would trade with Gad over here. They would give them smallpox blankets in return for skins and coats. Okay? And it skips that and it jumps right into Native Americans in the armed forces. It says we serve this country because it's our land. We have a sacred purpose to protect this land. Now, in Genesis 49 and 19, the scripture tells you about the prophecy which would befall Gad, and it says, Gad, the troop shall overcome him, but he shall overcome at the last, because what we know about the Gadites is that they were taken down by the so-called white men. They were taken down, and the way this happened is through that Gatling gun and biological warfare. All right? This here says George Washington. What does it say, brother? Let's read that.
It says George Washington Peace Medal, 1792. The United States often gave peace medals to tribal leaders to commemorate peaceful and friendly relations. This large silver medal depicts George Washington offering a pipe to a chief in says a white man plows his fields and yoke oxen.
Mm.
On the reverse is an image of an eagle and the motto
Right.
Fibrous
E
Union.
pluribus unum. Many out of many one. That's on the back of the dollar bill as well. You see, but this is a false history. You see, it has here what George Washington helping with agriculture or something like that. Let me tell you a history about George Washington. This is a document actually called George Washington and the Indians. Okay, and it says there's a picture of the so-called first president George Washington of the United States. It says George Washington is often revered as the first president of the United States. As the first president, he established many of the protocols for the office. Can you hear me out?
Yeah.
It says, from an Indian perspective, his presidency also established much of the basis for the federal Indian policies. Because what would happen is states would normally deal with the people of that land. States. How did each state deal with the, so-called Indians of that land? George Washington exed all that, and he left it in the hands of the federal government, and that's when they started really persecuting. It was persecuting before. That's when they went full fledged. It says, like other non-Indians of this era, he viewed Indians as a vanishing people. What does that mean? They're disappearing. They're going away. It says, or at least a people who, at some time in the near future, would cease to exist in the United States. Indians were to either die out, migrate, or become totally assimilated. So, in looking at the truth of the matter, there was a lot of hatred.
Can your brothers hear us? Let me know if your brothers hear us good.
Yeah, let me know if y'all brothers can hear us. We all live. This
Good.
is inside the building,
Yeah.
all right? Museum of Natural History. So, learning about George Washington,
Yeah.
this completely contradicts what we see there. It's a George Washington Peace Medal. George Washington wasn't a man of peace when it came to the Native Americans. Not at all. To the Gadites. Once again, the scripture reads Genesis 49 and 19.
Yeah, brother said good hear us.
Come, Gad, the troop shall overcome him, but he shall overcome at the last. That's what we're learning about Gad. Gad was taken down by a troop, right? They came through and slaughtered. And George Washington was at the forefront of a lot of this. Okay? Just reading here, this is a part of the article called the Revolutionary War. This is during the time of Revolutionary War. What you have is um, Gadites, so-called Native Americans here representing parts of the U.S. United States services. Even during the time of the Revolutionary War, Gadites fought for Esau. That actually happened. See, Gadites was notorious for taking treaties. These treaties would always come after a war, after thousands of their people were slaughtered. So they had no choice. But the Seminoles, who was Reuben, was known for not taking any treaties. But during the Revolutionary War, this happened. While many Indians aided the Americans in their struggle for independence, see, that's something you don't hear about. All right, American independence came also by way of Gadites. It says in 1779. This is 1792. This is the after the fact. In 1779, George Washington sent 5,000 American troops under the command of General John Sullivan to destroy the villages of the Onondaga, the Cayuga, and Seneca as punishment for aid which they had supposedly given to the British. Washington's orders are for the total destruction and devastation of the Indian settlements and capture as many prisoners as possible. The American forces made no distinction between those that had been American allies and those who aided the British. So they just came into these different tribes' land. Okay, he sent 5,000 generals. The peace man, George Washington himself, sent 5,000 troops to go and kill, take over the land, and destroy these people, the Onondaga, the Cayuga, and the Seneca. It says total destruction and devastation. That's what he proposed here. It says they didn't make a distinction between the American allies who fought for them and the ones who fought for the British. So basically, they went in there killing anybody, allies and all. If you was native, if you was so-called Indian, you got killed that day. Americans destroyed 40 villages and 160,000 bushels of corn because that's another tactic that the so-called white man used in this land to take it to besiege it. The troop, he would he would destroy the crops, starve the Gadites out. He would destroy the shoot buffalo at random to starve them out. They have a picture back in this time with it looks like over 2,000 buffalo skulls poured up on some mountain of just buffalo skulls. And you knew that they did this for that only reason to starve them out. All right, so as we looking upon this, this is just loving the oppressor. Okay, this is what we call Stockholm syndrome. American Indians have served in our nation's military since colonial times. In recent decades, they have served at a higher rate in proportion to their population than any other ethnic group. So we're not really getting them meat and potatoes of what happened in this land from this museum. All right, but we don't. Let's move on. Once again, they push the same narrative, which is Patriot Nation, Native American Armed Forces. As a matter of fact, you spin around the camera, each and every one of these go into the Patriot Forces, Native American service. That one over there says veteran. That one over there says Veterans Memorial. All right. That one says Global Conflicts, 21st Century. All right. And we know just recently, as last year, there was a conflict over there in the rivers of South Dakota or North Dakota, and they were trying to take to build a pipeline inside one of the Galley sacred land reservations, which supposedly this land is for them. But if you look at as many treaties as the so-called white man has made and broke, you'll see that he's not a man of peace at all. All right. So, matter of fact, it goes into saying the Constitution and congressional action. The Constitution of the United States was adopted in 1787. Article 1, Section 8, Clause 3 delegated to Congress the power to regulate commerce with foreign nations and among the several states and with the Indian tribes. So what happened is, as time progressed, because of George Washington, they started uh, making the natives as foreigners. See, they changed the history, right? They made the natives as foreigners according to the state. All right, so anybody who looked like this, anybody who represented that, would what? Would be persecuted, man, or treated like a foreigner
in their own land, brothers.
in their own land, and that's the whole point of this thing. And it says here that it says at this time George Washington called for the purchase of land from the Indians rather than driving them by force out of the country, because that's what treaties was. Treaty was just another way to backstab. The treaty was a diplomatic way to make them look less vile than they really are. And the so-called white man goes around the earth diplomatically, but if you don't adhere to his rules, what does he do? He kills. He slaughters, he rapes, he destroys. It says George Washington called for the purchase of the land from the Indians rather than driving them by force out of the country. He described Indians as being like the wild beasts of the forest and the wolf, as he viewed them as beasts of prey. All right, so we understand it now how the so-called white man was viewed. I mean, how our people, Gad, was viewed by the so-called white man. All right, so if any brothers got something off the top that I can pull up,
Psalms 55 and 20.
okay, let me grab that.
It's very sweet and butter, but war was in their heart.
All right, let me grab that there with me. Speak for a second, man.
Yeah, man, and that's just this, when you come to a museum like this, man, you just realize how wicked the so-called white man is, man. You know what I'm saying? They try to make their wrongs seem like it was a great thing, man. You know what I'm saying? Like you read the wording on this. You know what I'm saying? For example, it says right here, it says for thousands of years.
Slack your Paul.
It says, you know, it says it doesn't seem to make any sense why would American Indians, so-called silver government that overran their homeland, suppress their cultures and confine them to reservations. And then it says, for thousands of years, All right, American Indians have protected their communities and land. A warrior's traditional role, however, involved more than fighting enemies. Warriors cared for the people and helped in any time of difficulty. They would do anything to ensure their people's survival, including laying down their lives. Many American Indians view service in the U.S. Armed Force as a continuation of the warrior's role in Native culture. So they making this try to be like what's the word I'm looking for? Like something noble, like something great, like
Manifest
something.
destiny. First
Yeah,
off, man, they are not Americans.
that's right.
And second, they are not Indian. The word Indian means savage, man. Our people are not savage, man. The Edomites, you are the savage, man. You're the one that came over here and destroyed the land, man. And separate the man from the woman. So you, the so-called white man, man, he's a savage because once again, they are not Americans, and second of all, they are not savages, man. They are known as what? Reubenites, Gadites, Issacharites, but the one that mostly do out here in America and North America, and in Canada, what's what? Gadites and Reubenites. Those are
Mm-hmm.
our brothers, man.
Let's go to the next
Huh.
one. Yep.
Um,
This is yeah, because that word Indian means savage, exactly. But when we understand who the tribes were, these are holy people unto the Lord. We kept our laws, statutes, commandments perfectly when we could, but in captivity, you definitely can't keep the law, statutes, commandments. All right, and that's what state we in right now, where our people is, with the internet's jacked up, but
Oh,
um,
I'm favorite.
our people is just in a corrupted state, man. We was taken down by our oppressors, man. And as a matter of fact, I got the book of Obadiah in here. You have it? Let me read it real quick. This is Psalms 55 and 20. Bear with us. It says, He hath put forth his hands against such as be at peace with him. He hath broken his covenant. All right, so who's that he? So-called white man. All right, he's known as Esau in the Bible. He's a Mo. All right, so he put forth his hands against those that be in peace with him. All right, what does it say? Native Americans and all parts of the event was the greatest blow that could have been dealt us unless it had been a total destruction. What is he talking about? Chiefs of Spanish governor.
yeah.
All right, more fighting because what happened is here. Let's read it. When the War of Independence began in 1775, the opposing powers sought first to secure the neutrality of, then to forge alliances with powerful Indian nations. And what happened is the Spaniards here in America at that time. There was British here in America at that time. They joined.
Dutch.
It was Dutch. All right, New York was the first Dutch colony. But it was called New. What was it called? Newfoundland. One of those. Uh, what they named New York first. And they was trying to be at peace with Gad for the only reason that they was trying to do that was to have them fight in their war. How you do it? And so it says to forge alliances with powerful Indian nations because natives, the Gadites, was known for war. They warrior tribe. Matter of fact, and a lot of Gadites would be the spies of Israel, man. All right.
It
Now,
was known for what? Guerrilla warfare. That's where the so-called white man got guerrilla warfare from. Our people.
right, you're talking about the tomahawk.
Mm.
We're talking about the Mohawk. That's a tribe of Gad. It's, so-called. They different tribes. You got the Sioux. You got the tribe called Miami. Right, you got chiefs that's known as Osceola to take down. You have to take down Esau during
And
these different wars
yeah,
that they had.
Geronimo too.
You had Geronimo, right? You had Sitting Bull. You had Chief Pontiac. All right, so Gad was just doing the best they could, fighting off Esau. All right, they would call him Paleface, Rich Man. The brother did a video because I Mississippi did a video on that. I would call Esau different names. Most of his names had to do with his skin color, showing you they came, that mark never left them. Okay, and it says most nations sided with the British, who native people considered less threatening than the land-hungry colonists, because the colonists came over here just slaughtering them. Their whole stead, like in the words of George Washington, he saw them as vile wild beasts. All right, wild animals, and then he believed that they would vanish ultimately. So he didn't care. He didn't care less about the little treaties made here and there. He saw the influx of colonists and decided that these people wouldn't be here much longer. It says he had put forth his hands against such a be peace with them. So what came out of this? All right, land hungry colonists. What came out of that? Now, don't leave, most you have. All right, how many Gadites do you see with businesses? How many Gadites do you see really prospering in this land, America? Where are they? They're secluded to this place called the the reservation, which the res is known for alcoholism. It's sort of known for
Prostitution.
is it
Prostitution.
prostitution? It's known for just drugs in general.
Ghetto.
The ghetto, all right, getting high all day, passing away time. It's known for teenage pregnancy, and it's also known for the highest rate of suicide in the country.
Murders too.
Okay, that's what happened to the people. Gag. So what we're here to do is wake up the Gadites who push off of the false ideologies that, of their ancestors, immediate ancestors, which was believing in the eagle, star, sun, and moon, which is idolatry, and put back on that remembrance of who we were as a nation before we came over here to the side of the world. We were known as the Gadites of Ban Israel, of the nation of Israel, of the son of Israel. So it says, he had broken his covenant. All these treaties, man. American victory of the Revolutionary War proved disastrous for American Indians. So no wonder why they wanted the British to win. All right? No wonder. It says abandoned by their British allies, Indian tribes abandoned. See, because just because you made a pact with the so-called white man doesn't mean you won't keep it. The scriptures say, "Don't hand join their hand; the wicked shall not go unpunished." You can join your hand all you want, but Esau's going to get his judgment. And partially, he showed his true colors by abandoning you. That's why
He's also got a fourth tongue too, brother.
he's known as a man with the fourth tongue. The water. It says Indian tribes were left to face Americans who considered them conquered peoples, just like George Washington said. Okay, and he was clever enough as the devil that they are, to put up later a coin, as we just saw, of peace coin. Then comes Thanksgiving. Then comes the stories of Native American tribes getting along with Edomites.
He's so yeah, brother. He's so wicked, brother. He refused to stop calling that team the Washington Redskins. They got the Braves. They got the Seminole Indians,
Yep.
and in Florida. So
Mm-hmm.
he so refused to name that. He refused to change the name, brother. He
That's
says
right.
it's not racist.
That's right. Yeah.
Hmm.
And it says here, verse 21, the words of his mouth were smoother than butter because in order to make allies of them, all right, to fight their wars for them, which is this whole nation's own forces, Native Americans, in order to have them as allies, you had to speak with a forked tongue. You had to tell them, listen, we want you to have your land. George Washington was saying things like, listen, we want to buy your land from you. We don't want to take it from you. Ultimately, what happened, man? When you go to the reservations, none of them is rich. You have the smallest portion of the population of all Gad in America that run these casinos. And guess what? These is Edomites, man. Edomites who are so-called white people claiming to have native heritage or this 5% nation. Hey, what's up, brother? How? Showing up at the powwows, acting as if they part of the blood, acting as if they was part of the ones abandoned, the ones who's turned, who America turned against, man. Because these are the first New Yorkers, these are the first Americans here, man. You know, but now you can't find them except on the routes.
Don't forget the Trail of Tears, brother.
Yeah, just I watched a documentary like a couple of weeks ago about these loans. You know, they give these loans with crazy interest.
Right.
And they try to find the head office of this place, right?
Yeah.
And man, it was a Native American land, so called, and the people that are in charge of it, the office is a casino. You know what I'm saying? And the dude that was talking, say Native American, I'm watching this dude. I'm like, yo, he ain't no native, bro. Natives don't talk like that, man. That's 100% Edomite, bro.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
That's what they've done through manipulation. He says the words of his mouth is smoother than butter. Esau will tell you, listen, man, we're gonna have peace. We're gonna bring peace. And from this time all the way down to 1820, which is getting close to, then came the Indian killer Andrew Jackson. Okay, so it's going to read on. It says, who considered them conquered peoples, still viewing Britain as their last best hope against the U.S. expansion. Many native nations fought alongside the British during the War of 1812. So the scriptures tell you that there's a time for peace and time for war. This was the time for war. Scripture tell you that the truth shall overcome Gad, but he shall overcome at the last. So we at a time when what? The emphasis is on Gad returning and all the children of Israel returning to who they are, their nationalities, understanding the conflict of this in the struggle that of who overcame them and why, and that the Most High is going to change things for the better because this isn't. You would think that looking at a museum, but I mean the future of Native Americans is reservations and fighting in the army. But really, the army, when people promote the army and overlook all of this history, it's saying basically that that's the last resort for people that's been slaughtered like this. All right, and that's why you don't have no flourishing representation of Native Americans in the earth. You don't. You have a handful of them, a small group. Okay, because the truth is out. It says still viewing Britain as their last best hope against U.S. expansion, and there was no last hope. As you can see, many native nations fought alongside the British during the War of 1812. All tribes, whether they supported the British or fought with the Americans, came to regret the U.S. victories of 1783 and 1814. Wonder why? Because it was slaughtered, man. Now you have an event that the brother just mentioned called the Trail of Tears. All right, I'm sure I'll search this museum up and down and probably find the smallest bit of information on the Trail of Tears. Trail of Tears is when they marched for thousands of miles, Native Americans from the I believe the area of Florida all the way to Oklahoma, barefoot in the winter. Okay,
Man, woman, and
man,
child.
woman, and child. Many dying along the way. That's why it's called the Trail of Tears. Then you had an event called Wounded Knee. Now they say that 9/11 was the most just, just, uh, the most U.S. citizens that died in one event in America. But there was actually an event called Wounded Knee when after these Native Americans had surrendered to the generals in the western part of America, what happened? They shot them, man. They lined them all up and shot them one by one, men, women, and child. So the true history of America is very bloody, it's malicious, and it's a tale of a people who would ruthlessly do anything, including kill women and children, to gain a country and a nation and imprison the people that were first here. This is a tale of bloodshed. You see, it says all tribes, whether they supported the British or fought with the Americans, came to regret the U.S. victories of 1783 and 1814. Settlers now flooded their lands and set into motion the conflicts, land laws, and removals to come. What removal are you talking about?
And the removal
Andy Jackson, 1820, it's called the Indian Removal Act. Because remember, they claimed since the time of George Washington, natives was no longer American citizens. They was foreign.
on their
They was
own
to
land.
be treated like foreign people, as you would treat a Irishman, as you would treat a in actual Palestinian. It was treated like foreigners in their own country. All right, so we walk over here. Listen more.
Indian killer.
Indian killers, right? Andrew Jackson says, "Now words of his mouth were smoother than butter, but war was in his heart, and that's why so many treaties was made and yet broken, man. All right, hundreds and hundreds of treaties, man. Okay, it says." His words were soft and oily, yet were they drawn swords, because the so-called white man is notorious for his soothing speech, man. Not only is it in power, he is in power, but he makes it seem as if peace is on the horizon, even when it's not. You see, civil war, conflict and loyalty continued to torment Indian country during the Civil War. Approximately 20,000 American Indians fought in the Civil War. They don't tell you that. They don't tell you that um, no matter what, Gad was still there trying to be reasonable, trying to be at peace, trying to make it work with this man to no avail. It says, most of them for the Confederacy, a choice informed by the southern origins of many tribal nations, bitter memories of the Indian removals of the 1830s, going back to Andrew Jackson. Okay, $20 bill. Okay, said and the tribal grievances just hit report again to stop. And the tribal grievances against the federal treaty violations because once again, states they were no longer being regulated by a state; they was being regulated by the feds now. All right, basically the higher ups. America has different branches. It has executive, state, and legislative. It was being dealt with by the executive branch, the presidency. That's why it was known as the Federal Indian Removal Act instead of the state. They would send the feds in there. Now you have a movie. I only saw the first half of it called Hostages or Hostiles.
That's what it
Okay,
is. It's a good movie.
right. In the movie Hostiles, who did they send in there? To bring the chief to where he needed to go. That was like an executive order from the top. It wasn't the state, local government involved. Okay, so it says it, federal treaty violations. Now, what happened was they was making treaties. Gad, you're good here. You're going to be set in this land. Then pushing them back. And making the treaty again. You're going to be good at setting this land. Fine. We're going to buy this land from you. Then they fight them off, kill them, slaughter them over one incident, maybe two incidents. Thousands die. Push them back. All right, wearing blue uniforms with 36,000 American Indian soldiers who served bravely in the Union Army. And why were they serving? It was not because they believed in the so-called white man. It tells you that they sided with the British back then. It was because the so-called white man was smooth as butter, his words. And through his speech, he had them thinking that they was going to become citizens again, become and dwell, be able to dwell in that land, right? So it says the native people who fought for the Union
Joe
hoped
Marsh
the
with the
alliance would
time.
improve conditions and defend their tribal homeland. You see,
Joe
there's
Marsh
the
with the
answer.
time.
Shalom, just get your swords out and go. You know what I mean? Just get in where you fit in. So they thought it would improve conditions, and that's why they sided with it. All right. So you have different guys actually, all right, dressed in their traditional outfits, right? And Gab was fly. They known for having fringes. Check this out at the bottom of his phone right here. Is he not wearing fringes? See, this is Edomite clothing, man. You see? But when Gab was dressed, man, they thought it looks like a bandana on with some feathers. Man. All right? And we know they was decked out. Okay? So it says they only made alliances with Esau during the Civil War because they thought it would improve conditions. All right? American, because traditions and because conditions were getting so harsh for Gad during this time. They were just getting pushed back, right? When you live on the land in a certain area of the country, you learn how to till the land, you learn the seasons, you learn the crops that grow. When they move you off your land, you can't just get the flow of the next part of the land. North, the area around New England is completely different than the area around Georgia and Florida. So is the area around North Dakota and South Dakota. So I keep pushing them back. Their conditions getting harsh. All right, they're dying off at the
And they
same time.
also they kill the buffalo too, bro.
Exactly.
Just to destroy just to starve them out. And they had no food. The buffalo the fur keep them warm in the winter time. They make tents with the buffalo fur. The buffalo cultivate the land. So Esau destroy their lifestyle.
You got something? Yep. Yeah.
This is Psalms 10 and 5. His ways are always grievous, thy judgments are far above out of his sight. As for all his enemies, he puffeth at them.
His ways is always grievous. All right, because as we was reading about George Washington, he was completely convinced that Gad would be out of the land. And this is back in the 1776. So he was setting troops and troops and troops on Gadites to weed them out and get them out and back them up. And then he would pass treaties with them. See, that's that balance of smooth and rough that Esau was showing. But Gad was just doing what? He was showing too much love. Reuben was just fighting. Okay, the Reubenites or the Seminoles were just fighting back. But Gad was making these treaties, fighting in their war, hoping for a better day. It says, what was that last part? Still got it?
This is Psalms 10. Psalms 10 and 5. His ways are always grievous, thy judgments are far above out of his sight. As for all his enemies, he puffeth at them.
Hmm. It goes into how this article goes into how George Washington, it says, was making a treaty with the Seneca leaders. And it says, it says in 1790, Seneca leader Corn planted a big tree in halftime, traveled to Philadelphia to complain to President George Washington about non-Indian encroachment on tribal lands, meaning so-called white people coming into their tribal lands, their designated areas. It says referring to that 1784 treaty, right? So they come directly to the man and refer to the treaty. Well, listen, according to this one, it says they asked Washington, does this promise bind you? Does it bind you? Meaning, are you constricted to your promise? Washington guaranteed their boundaries and control of their lands by telling them that all the land secured to you by the Treaty of Fort Stanwix, excepting such parts as you may have fairly sold, are yours, and that only your acts can convey them away. You see? So he would tell them exactly what they wanted to hear. These lands that I gave you are yours. It says that independent nations and tribes of Indians ought to be considered, this is what Washington later said, as foreign nations, not as the subjects of any particular state. Once again, they treated them like foreigners. They set up all the laws and the mandates to have these treaties broken over and over again. This clause, that clause. Well, if they're foreign now, that means this is a we can have a expiration date on this and an expiration date on that, and they would just move in. You see? So Gad knew that there was no hope there. It says American Indian volunteers on both sides wore their uniforms as proudly as their non-native comrades did. Do you think that meant equality? Because this whole, he's going into brothers, this whole area here is all the subject of Native Americans and nations armed forces. So they're trying to promote inside the museum that's supposed to be designated to the life and betterment in the what you want with the culture of natives. Now they're telling you all about the goodwill of natives who wanted to secure a spot in America. When America was right, patriots. When America was literally kicking them in the ass every decade since this 1400s. It says it says American Indian volunteers on both sides wore the uniforms as proudly as their non-native comrades and suffered the same appalling casualty rates and overdied in the first spot. It says same appalling casualty rates of the 134 on needed volunteers from Wisconsin in the Union Army. Only 55 returned home. Mortality rate of nearly 60%. So they was getting served for Esau's sake. Let's go down to the next one. The front line.
You sure, bros? Right. Bring it back.
Bring your bags. Bunch of stuff. All right. So that's just it, man. You know, Trail of Tears. Wounded Knee. These are two events, but yeah, they're just getting served every day he goes, man. That was all relating to this fact that the scriptures prophesied of this. Matter of fact, given Deuteronomy 28, part of the curses that our enemies shall come up upon us. All right? So we have here on the scout. The end of the Civil War marks the beginning of a turbulent and tragic chapter in American Indian history. It sounds like it's repeating itself, man. When wasn't there a turbulent and tragic chapter in American Indian history? And if this is the history of these people, when did it begin? You can't tell me it didn't begin when the troops, British troops, first landed here. You got some? You got to go ahead.
This is Deuteronomy 28 and 49. The Lord shall bring a nation against thee from far, from the end of the earth, as swift as the eagle flieth, a nation whose tongue thou shalt not understand.
And these are the Edomites, because Gad is actually speaking Hebrew. All right? You have different books where brothers always bring about American Indian, what is it?
John something.
James
James Adair.
James Adair.
Yeah, James Adair.
Speaks of how Columbus had Hebrew interpreters with him. You have different stones in North America that have Hebrew writings on them. For instance, the Los Lunas stone. You have
you got a Moabite stone.
You have the Moabite stone, right? Then you have pyramids, Central and South America. These pyramids is actually spoken of in Maccabees. All right, this is a matter of fact. Get real quick. First Maccabees 13, and I think it's around 24. Just to line it up because the brother Kazak did a good showing this and showing how there's pyramids inside Mexico, all throughout Mexico. Okay, but the pyramid goes back. You could say the pyramid goes back to Egypt. Well, we was in Egypt constructing those pyramids.
So second Maccabees
No,
13,
first Maccabees
13 and 34.
13 and no 24 around.
This is First Maccabees 13 and 24. Afterward, Tryphon returned and went into his own land. Then, then sent Simon and took the bones of Jonathan his brother and buried them in Modin, the city of his fathers. And all Israel made great lamentation for him and bewailed him many days. Simon also built a monument upon the sepulchre of his father
Okay, you know.
and his brethren, and raised it aloft to the site with hewn stone behind and before. Moreover, he set up 7 pyramids, one against another, for his father and his mother and his 4 brethren.
Right. So that's the point. You have pyramids from our nation is known for those pyramids, man. He was setting up pyramids in honor of his family. All right. Are they not pyramids over? If the brother in the brother's video, I forget what pyramid he visited, somewhere in Guatemala or whatnot, and it was the pyramid was made in honor of this man's father and family, similar to the times of Simon and the Maccabees, man. So the information on these being on people is highly being brought out now. Now somebody gets second address where it talks about the tribes going into what was that 13?
Yep.
13 and 30. 30. Start at 26. See if this
Actually,
okay.
second Ezra is 13 and 40. Those are the 10 tribes.
Start up at 30. Let's see this young lady. Yeah.
Second Ezra 13 years 9. Whereas I quote that he gathered another peaceable multitude unto them. Those are the 10 tribes which were carried away prisoners out of their own land.
So then are the 12 tribes that was carried away prisoners of their own land because the tribes had separated during the time of after King Solomon. The kingdom split. You had the northern kingdom and southern kingdom. The southern kingdom, Judah, Benjamin, and Levi. The northern kingdom is 10 tribes. We said then shall the 10 tribes what?
Then those are the 10 tribes which were carried away prisoners out of their own land in the time of Hosea the king, whom Salmanasar the king of Assyria led away captive, and he carried them over the waters, and so came they into another land.
Into another land, you know?
But they took this counsel among themselves, that they would leave the multitude of the heathen and go forth into a further country, where never mankind dwelt.
Never mankind dwell.
Break it on.
Yeah, never mankind dwelt, man. And now it's what? This land over here in America, which is called Azareth in the Bible. Okay? And in the book of First Kings, King Solomon will send his voyagers over here, and they'll take trips and gather resources. All right? And that's recorded in the history.
This land was also known as what? The land of Canaan.
Canaan. Yep. It says
Second kingdom, yeah, brother.
that they might keep that them that they might there keep their statutes which they never kept in their own lands. And they entered into Euphrates by the narrow passages of the river. For the Most High then showed signs for them and held still the flood.
Now that's talking about how they came through the Euphrates, all right, to the bottom of that land known as the Middle East, up south of Africa, the point of Africa, and where it says, what did it say he did with the water?
It says, and the Most High then showed signs for them and held still the flood.
Instead of flood, because there's currents that go throughout these different regions.
Huh.
There's currents, the hurricanes,
Storms,
right, all types of
typhoons,
tempests on the water.
high
That's real
winds,
violent water
high
waves,
wind.
right? So the signs that the Most High worked was allowing the tribes, the northern kingdom, to come through these lands, these seas, known for rough passage and make it here to the Americas, man. All right, because did not the Most High show signs with waters before? All right, how did we get? What was the Exodus all about? Right? Did He not split the part the sea for us? So the Most High does that when we need to get escape. Go ahead.
It says, for through the country there was a great way to go, namely of a year and a half, and the same region is called Arzareth.
Yeah, and that's the time it takes to get to Americas from that area, from that land, a year and a half, in that same place called Arsenal. Right?
It says, verse 46,
But I believe that.
then dwelt they there
That
until the
means
latter
at the top.
time,
No,
and now when they shall begin to
I'm,
come,
I
the
gotta look it
highest
up.
shall stay the springs of the stream again, that they may go through. Therefore sawest thou the multitude of peace.
That's it. That's it, brother. Go ahead. It's Second Kings, chapter 17, starting at verse 5. Mm-hmm. Then the king of Assyria came up from all the land. He's going into the history of the northern tribes and the southern tribes. Go ahead. And went up to Samaria and besieged it 3 years. Mm-hmm. Verse 6. And in the ninth year of Hosea, the king of Assyria took Samaria and carried Israel away into Assyria. They went to Syria. That's the captivity, Syrian captivity. Go ahead. And placed them in Halah and harbor by the river of Gozan, mm-hmm. and in the cities of the Medes. Mm-hmm. Verse 7. For it was that the children of Israel had sinned against the Yahweh their power, mm-hmm. which brought them up out of the land of Egypt from under the hand of Pharaoh, king of Egypt, mm-hmm. and had feared other gods. Mm-hmm. Verse 8. And walked in the statutes of the heathen, whom Yahweh cast out from before the children of Israel, and of the kings of Israel, which they had made. Verse 9. And the children of Israel did secretly those things that were not right against Yahweh thy power. And they built them high places in all their cities, and the tower of the watchman into the fenced city. Verse 10. And they set them up images in groves in every high hill and under every green tree. Same thing a lot of Gadites are doing now. The same thing a lot of Native Americans are doing now. All right, 2/3 of our people, whether they be so-called Native Americans, niggas, and spics, you doing this, man. You're still guilty of these same iniquities of our forefathers. All right, you got something real quick?
Yep. Yep. This is Hosea 8:1. Set the trumpet to thy mouth. He shall come as an eagle against the house of the Lord, because they have transgressed my covenant and trespassed against my law. And that's why the so-called white man, the Lord sent him over here, and he basically almost exterminated the Northern Kingdom, man. But the Lord reserved a remnant for Himself. Okay, the Lord said He was going to send an eagle. Who was that eagle? It was the so-called white man. Because what was the Northern tribe doing, man? Sacrificing unto Satan, man. The Mayans, they was known unto that, worshiping the sun. That's the main thing that they was doing, sun worshiping, man. Walking after the heathens after they promised the Lord that they wasn't going to do it. Okay? It says, Israel shall cry unto me, my power, we shall know thee. Israel has cast off the thing that is good. The enemy shall pursue him. They have set up kings, but not by me. They have made princes, and I knew it not. Of their silver and their gold have they made them idols, that they may be cut off. Because Israel was doing what? Playing the harlot, man. All right? Didn't the Lord say in Jeremiah, the 6th chapter, that we're women unto Him?
You gotta come on, sweet brother.
All right? So that's why He did what? Punish us by sending who? The so-called white man.
Yeah, the cavalry, right? The, what else would they call them? Troops, okay? And they just took us down one by one, man. Now we have all the tribes there in the Americas, man, which is not coincidence, man. That we all here under the same oppression. Go ahead, Al. That was it, right?
One more.
Mm-hmm.
That was it.
Go ahead, Al. Okay. That's the Second Kings, 18th chapter, starting at verse 9. It passed in the 4th year of King Hezekiah, which was the 7th year of Hosea, son of Elah, king of Israel. King of Israel, right? The tribes, the 10 tribes, right? That Salmanassar, the king of Assyria, came up against Samaria and besieged it. Besieged Samaria, man. The 10 tribes just besieged, taken down by the king of Assyria. That's what, that correlates with what we just read in second Ezra. Go ahead.
And at the end of the 3 years, they took it. Even in the seventh year of Hezekiah, that is the ninth year of Hosea, king of Israel, Samaria was taken.
Mm-hmm.
Verse 11. And the king of Assyria did carry away Israel unto Assyria, and put them in Halah, and in the harbors by the river of Gozan,
Right.
and in the cities of the Medes.
And that's why we always bring out how the Tedrals flee the Syrian captivity. That's where they was dwelling in. They was taken and brought under the captivity and rule of Solomon Massey. Right?
Verse 12. Because they obeyed not the
And we
voice
got
of Yahweh,
15 minutes before the
transgressed his covenant, and all that Moses, the servant of Yahweh, commanded.
That's good right there, brother. That was a point. And we're just going to briefly go through a few more of these as we read some scriptures on. Now, you was holding something for this, right?
Yeah.
Let me read on. It says, the end of the Civil War marks the beginning of the turbulent and tragic chapter in American Indian history. And enraged by increasing settlement on tribal lands, the expansion of railroads, the slaughter of bison and herds. Was me going into that?
Oh.
All right, and there's a picture on Google somewhere.
There's the picture right
You
here.
got that? Come on, brother. How many
Come on,
bison
man.
skulls is this, bro? I said 1,000, but I was way under.
Millions.
That's more. Yeah, it's in the millions.
Oh.
Now, what would be the purpose of that?
Right.
What would be the purpose?
To
Tell
genocide,
me.
to genocide somebody.
That's to starve somebody out.
Yeah, I
Oh.
was going to say that.
That was the, especially in the West, that was the main source of food right
And the
there.
Sukkah white man
The
was
bison.
talking about he was talking about genocide. Well, he's the one that biggest genocide.
Right.
And we also got to use that, like the skin, the fur, for keeping themselves warm in the winter.
For the TPs. All of that. That's what it says. The slaughter of bison herds with links over what we just saw, and government efforts to confine Indians to reservations. Now the government wants to put them in these reservations, which are unfertile lands. Let's get that right. Not the fertile lands. It says many native nations in the West took arms to defend their homelands and cultures. And so you had the Geronimos, you had the Chief Pontiacs, you had the Osceolas. That was in Florida, but you know, crazy horse, right?
I
As a
want to
matter of
say
fact, the largest
Uncas.
monument in America is supposed to be Crazy Horse, right? They started sculpting that out of a mountain. It's an image. Look that up real quick. Crazy Horse Monument. Now it says, faced with a shrinking army and a huge territory to protect, Congress in 1866 authorized the War Department to enlist up to 1,000 Indians to act as scouts for the U.S. Army, receiving the same pay and allowances as cavalry soldiers. Native American scouts played a critical role in tracking and engaging hostile Indian groups during the so-called Indian Wars of the mid to late 19th century. So what did they do?
And that's the picture right here, brother.
Yeah, so and who were they shooting down? Take a wild guess. They shooting down hostile Indians. They were shooting down their own people. So we see the trading amongst our people is very common, man. Now you telling me these people ain't back here today?
And their own people using what, bows and arrows, brother. They wasn't using no guns.
Yeah, they was running up on horseback, but they was setting that scouts to snipe their people down. The ones that were hostile was obviously the ones that said, we don't want no pact. We don't want no more treaties. We heard what y'all did. We seen the buffalo skulls. We heard about wounded men. All of this. We don't want. They was hostiles. That's why you had a lot of. Matter of fact, Hollywood played a big role in making Native Americans look like savages too. Every time you see the cowboy in India, there was a good old cowboy, and there was a wild savage, right? Gadite, right? And then you always had the good Indian who was in a tuxedo and shit like that.
That's just like a classic thing with Esau, man. That's his strategy, man. Divide and conquer. You know what I'm saying? He promised them on you might live a little better. You know what I'm saying? So he did that with older tribes.
Same pay and allowances as a cavalry soldier. He promised them what a gift destroys the heart.
That's right.
This is Deuteronomy 28, verse 54. So that the man that is tender amongst you, very delicate, his eye shall be evil toward his brother.
Right. And that's what he had. Tracking and engaging hostile Indian groups. That was the role of Gad, man. Certain Gadites was going to, and who was winning at the end? It was always Esau. Okay.
But I got another piece of real quick.
Go ahead,
This is going to as you see right here. This is the slaughter of the bison herds.
Yeah.
And this is Deuteronomy 28, verse 31. Thy ox shall be slain before thy eyes, and thou shalt not eat thereof. Thy ass shall be vilely taken away from before thy face, and shall not be restored to thee.
Oh, that's part of the curses.
Yeah.
So I mean, once again,
Yeah.
right? Slaughter of bison herds, man. Because these animals belong to the land, and the land belonged to Gad. All of a sudden, Esau came in and ruined that whole process, man. Let's move to the next one.
If your mom brother can't bring my bag,
You was holding something?
Yep.
Go ahead, man.
Psalms 55 and 20, because you was talking about how, okay, I was just scared for
Talking about how, certain of our people will make a covenant with the heathen, man, but at the end of the day, it was Esau who was always winning.
It says Psalms 55 and 20. He had put forth his hands against such as be at peace with him. He had broken his covenant.
What we reading about is what this whole diagram is about. Niggas joining the armed forces. So obviously, in order to join the armed forces, you have peace. But you literally are in the middle of a war against your people. They're trying to be at peace, and that's the tribes versus Esau. Complete history of all the tribes versus Esau. No matter how hard he comes down on us, our people still selling out. Our people still trying to make it peaceful, make it hand in hand. Rainbow Coalition, Jesse Jackson, right? Martin Luther King, white children, black children holding hands. All these dreams and all these visions of these leaders. Don't the scripture tell you that your leaders call you the earth? All right? And that's that love, peace, prosperity doctrine. The Lord ain't set us up for that. He set us up to be taken down by a wicked oppressor, a filthy. In the scripture, in the book of Song of the three holy children, said, most hateful forsaker of the Most High. That's how Esau is known for, man. Go ahead, man.
It says, he had broken his covenant. The words of his mouth were smoother than butter, but war was in his heart. His words were softer than oil, yet were they drawn swords.
Because he wasn't going to stop attacking him. What time did Gad just did the so-called white man just stop attacking Gad? Because we ain't get there, and there's 50 more of these diagrams. And we at the World War I already. So it just don't stop. Just like I referenced earlier, last year even they was up in the Gad reservation trying to start the oil pipeline, and all of a sudden it died down. You ain't nothing about it because when the feds is involved, they quiet everybody. They quiet the news. I'm gonna give it over to this. When the United States World War I, the United States entered the world war, the end of all wars in April 1917. Native Americans signed up to fight in and supported. 3,000 to 6,000 Native men enlisted in, another 6,500 were drafted. So it shows you the hypocrisy. He's savage enough for you not to let him have his own land, but he still wanted you enough to fight for you. The only time, and the only time, that you get credit from the so-called white man seems to be when you fight for his act. Hence, we in the middle of the Museum of Native American History, and a whole segment is designated to fighting for Esau. You see? It says about two-thirds served in the infantry, winning widespread praise for bravery and achievement, but the cost was high. About 5% of Native American combat soldiers was killed, compared to 1% of American forces overall. And I guarantee you, they was not serving side by side with their Edomite comrades, man. As a matter of fact, they had many showing you that the Negroes had their own ranks, their own platoons, their own platoons and whatnot. Okay, and what they would do to the Negroes before they got to areas of alliances like France, they would send out letters to the French. Don't treat these people with any respect, because when they get back to America, we don't want them thinking that they're on our level. And how the grandfather fought in World War I. A great grandfather. My grandfather fought World War II, and I asked him about how he got treated when he got back. He said he had to swim in different pools when he got back to the base. So this didn't stop, man. You know what I'm saying? It just never stopped. He said, but the cost was high, about 5%. Right? You got some?
Yeah, Sirach 12, verse 10. Never trust thy enemy, for like as iron rusteth, so is his wickedness. Verse 11. Though he humble himself and go crouching, yet take good heed and beware of him, for thou shalt be unto him as if thou had its white plate looking glad, and thou shalt know that his rust have not been altogether wiped away.
Yeah, because once again, you can't trust the enemy because even after all this fighting for him,
Right.
even after all this sacrifice for him,
Yeah,
killed,
yeah.
even after giving up your land, he's still not good enough with that.
Yeah.
You can't own businesses. You can't produce anything for yourselves. Your reservations are still being regulated. All the casinos that's generating all these millions and billions of dollars, y'all never see it. Y'all never see it. Fact to is Mohegan Sun, largest casino in the world. Y'all ain't never seen a dime of it. Okay? Y'all then integrated into society, thinking because maybe if I got this fair skin and long hair, that, and every tribe does it. Every tribe with the fair skin has these wars with the darker skin. Every tribe with the good Queen's English has a war with the tribes, their tribes that can't speak English that well. The literate against the illiterate, the rich against the poor tribes. You see? All right. So this is gonna come to a close. You know what I'm saying? You got last scriptures.
Yep. This is Job 20 and 14.
Yep.
Yet his meat is in his bowels, his turn is the gall.
We can walk at the same time.
As within him.
Read it. Go ahead. Read it nice and loud.
This is Job 20 and 14. Yet his meat in his bowels is turned. It is the gall of asp within him. Asp, is a snake. And that's the so-called white man. He's known as a serpent, right? That's why, in the end, through all of that, God is going to overcome, as a truth, as it is written. It says that first.
So, no, you got it because I mean, this is so far what the museum tells us is that it's an unsuccessful story of the Native Americans.
Mm.
It's a plight. It's a downfall. And who they are, according to the scriptures of the Israelites. Now, we know that the Most High doesn't do away with His people permanently, and that is the hope and the salvation that we have that the Lord is going to redeem the elect of His people. But 2/3 is going to be devils, man. You know what I'm saying? So we're going to end it here. All right. So with that, all the brothers out there watching edified, we'll say shalom.
Shalom.
Right. Lord will leave us edified. Till next time. Shalom.
Shalom.